In this video, I'm going to give you directions on part 2 of Handout 1. So I start with my search bar here at the top of my screen, and I have typed in the web address for the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis here, the FRED, and so I'm going to go there. And this is what the FRED looks like. And I am going to click on FRED Economic Data. And now, moving to step 2, I'm going to click in this search bar and search U.S. Real Gross Domestic Product and press Enter. And now I have in front of me a whole slew of options. I'm going to, from step 3 now, I'm going to click on this first series here under Real Gross Domestic Product. So this first series that says Billions of Change, $2012 quarterly seasonally adjusted annual rate. So I'm going to click on that. And that takes me to a very nice graph. But I want to make some changes. First, and moving on to step 4, I'm going to go to Edit Graph, which is this orange-ish button here on the right-hand side of the graph. So I'm going to click Edit Graph, and then this box is going to pop up. And from this box, I'm going to do two things. First, I'm going to come over and modify the frequency of this data. So as it's presented to me, I'm looking at quarterly data, and what I would like to look at is annual data. So I'm going to switch this to annual, and you'll see there was a slight adjustment in my graph. And then I'm also going to come up to the top and add a line to my graph. So I'm going to click on Add Line here in the center. In step 6, I tell you to go into this search bar here where it says Add Data Series to Graph, and I'm going to type the keywords to search. And those keywords are U.S. Nominal Gross Domestic Product. I'm going to press Enter. And the first thing that comes up is Gross Domestic Product Quarterly Billions of Dollars Seasonally Adjusted Annual Rate, and that's what I'm going to select. So I'm going to click that. And then I'm going to come down, and this is now step 8. I'm going to come down and add this data series to my graph. So I'm going to click Add Data Series. And when I do that, I'll notice that a red line has now appeared on my graph to the left. I'm also going to make the same changes to this new line, however. So I'm going to stay in this box to the right, and I'm going to come over to Modify Frequency, and I'm going to change the frequency of this data to annual. And now I see there's been a slight adjustment to my graph on the left. In step 10, I tell you to now come over and exit out of this box. So I'm going to come over to the right-hand side and just click on X, and that will reveal the whole graph to me. And there's a couple things that I want you to notice before we move on, and I describe this in step 11. The first thing is I want you to notice that we have a legend here to the left, top left of the graph, that tells you that the blue line is real gross domestic product and the red line is just nominal gross domestic product. The other thing I want you to notice is the units of our y-axis. So we see here that we have two units. One is billions of change $2012, and that's going to relate to our real GDP. And then we just have billions of dollars, and that's going to relate to just GDP. So this is just telling me that when we look at this blue line here, and then we come over to the x-axis for its value, if what we're looking at is real gross domestic product, then we're going to think of the value of real gross domestic product in billions of change $2012. If, however, we're looking at the red line, which is just gross domestic product, and I come over to the y-axis to think about what the value is for gross domestic product in a certain year, then I'm going to think about that value in terms of the units of billions of dollars. The other thing I want you to notice is the span of our data. We can find that from two places. One is the x-axis here, and the other is up at the top right here, where it says that our data spans from January 1st, 1947 to January 1st, 2017. The last thing I want you, well, second to last thing I'd like you to notice is that in our graph we have these gray bars sort of in the background of our two lines. And each one of these gray bars represents a span of time in which there was a recession in the U.S. economy. And that's really helpful because it gives us it helps provide some context to the way that we look at GDP. So for instance, if we come over and see that there's a slight drop off in real GDP in from 1990 to 1991, it's helpful to have as the backdrop or to context to that trend that we were in a recession. And then the final thing I'd like you to notice is what keeps happening as I move my mouse along these lines, which is that as I move my mouse along these lines, this box that pops up will tell me the year that I'm on exactly, and the exact values for real gross domestic product and gross domestic product in that year. And that will change as I move my mouse across the line. Now you are ready to answer the questions from part 2. And once you are done answering those questions, I would like you to take one more step with this graph here, and that step is to download and print this graph and submit it with your Handout 2 submissions. So the way we're going to do that, and I'm now on step 13, is I'm going to come up to the navy blue button on the top right corner of the graph that says download. And I'm going to click that. And from the options that appear, I'm going to come down and select a PDF of this graph. And once I select a PDF of this graph, I am now sitting in front of this screen here where Fred has produced a very nice printout of the graph that I made, which is labeled and in color. And so all I want you to do is to come up at the top so that this bar appears, and you're going to come over to the print icon, and you are going to print this graph. It's fine if it's in black and white, and you are going to submit it with your Handout 2 submission. If you have any questions, please see me during office hours.